Namaste. Hello again, friends. So we're going to have a look now as we continue through this particular sequence of asana. Obviously, there are many other asana that we can bring into the sequencing of seated asana. My hope is to just share with you a kind of core group of seated asanas that I feel give a variety of effect in terms of the physical ability, in terms of the hold in the physical body, and at the same time they offer to you a variety of ways that the energetic body is enhanced or energized. Now we're going to have a look right now into the sequence of what we call the back bends, and there's actually 6 particular back bends that I'm going to share with you. And it's important to know that back bends are pretty intensive for many people. So if you decide to plan a class and sequence a class, especially if you are inspired, for example, to work more on the fire element or more on the heart element, and you choose a sequence of back bends to amplify that, it's really important to know that too many back bends, especially one after the other, is not recommended physically, because it can literally just be too intensive for people as they are practicing yoga. Of course, to some degree, if we can integrate some neutral asanas or some counter poses in between to kind of alleviate the physical body, then this can be really good. Generally, the child's pose, what we call yogasana, is number one for creating a more rejuvenating effect in the body from a back bend. And also it's very good at just centering down and really taking some moments to meditate within particularly the spine, but also the heart. So what I want to encourage us just to really keep in mind, even if you have the most amazing design of a Tantra yoga class, but there are seriously too many back bends, just be careful of not creating a strain for yourself or for your students. And there are even some schools of thought that say it's not so good for the spine to go into a back bend, then go into a forward bend. Like, it can be a little bit too much wear and tear. This is it nowadays with all these different ideas about what is good for our body and what is not good for our body. I would just ultimately recommend that you really feel into it and give your students the option to feel what is right for them as they practice, but obviously having a wise sequence of asanas. Okay, let's go to the first back bend that I will share with you, and somehow we'll work up energetically through the body as we also do this. So I would like to introduce you now to the locust pose, which we know as Shalabasana. Now, with the locust pose, there are different ways to do this asana, and I always give a variety of options on where to place the hands. One of the main key aspects that you need to advise, because this really makes a huge difference on the energy, is at what point to lift up the legs. The higher you lift up the legs, then the more the fire element is going to be energized, because as I will show you in a moment, when you come into this asana, lifting the legs up a little will actually stimulate and give energy there in the pelvic area. But the more you're lifting the legs, the more you require your core muscles, and to a certain point where it can become quite an intensive back bend. And then of course when you get to that point, you know that there is a great energizing there within the Manipur chakra. Okay, so the locust pose, again, this is not an asana teaching methodology. I'm not breaking down the particular way of performing the asana here. I just want to show you, because maybe you're practicing along with this and you just want to have some idea. when I come into this asana, I'm holding my fists underneath my pubic bone here, because generally in this asana, we're using this to bring the energy to Svadhisthana chakra. Because the reality is we have many asanas that energize the fire center, like so many. As you've seen in the standing sequence, there is a whole set for whipping up this fire, and even now in the back bends, some of these asanas, they will only really give the predominant effect there in Manipur chakra. So this is an asana that we can use to bring energy to Svadhisthana chakra, and so I'm going to teach about that solely today. Okay, this will be the focus. So for me, the reason I'm speaking about this is if I put my fists underneath my body on either side, just above my pubic bone, you could say at the level of the ovaries even for the women. So on either side of the pelvic area. What happens here is not only do I get a good leverage into the floor as I lift my legs up, it's like a steady leverage, it also kind of just embeds a little the hands into this area, so that in itself it anchors the physical contact here, which naturally can draw the energy to that area. And also what it does in this is, by pushing in, you can feel like there is, it's like a knocking on the door somehow. And then as we lift the legs up, we get them at a particular angle. Now you have to play with this a little bit. Get them at an angle that really, at a certain point, it clicks and you can feel the energy. Maybe you feel it first in the legs, because the legs are held quite strongly, straight ideally. So this energizing through the legs, eventually you can take that nice deep breath that we're encouraging you to do into the Svadhisthana chakra, and then ideally the energy from the legs and from this pressure here and from the focus of the mind and the deepening of the breath in this area will start to energize Svadhisthana chakra. Okay, so the other way that you can do it if you want, this is a moment I need to take off my bracelets. The other way you can do it is placing the hands flat underneath. If this is really not ideal for you, then you can, of course, put the hands at the side of the body. Okay, but generally I'm teaching this and it's working quite good. Of course, depending on the length of your hands will depend on where they meet. I'm just feeling now actually more at the level of my ovaries is actually the wrists. So the hands are coming when I'm in this position more underneath the pelvic area. Okay, and then basically from this position we take a nice deep breath. And then with the exhale, and releasing. Now, immediately, my body had the tendency to want to lift the legs up, because it's like I kind of give it a push and a pull and then the legs lift up. But actually what I could feel is that actually it's better for me to lower the legs at that point, to just kind of bring them into a place where I can feel the energy in that point. Yeah, this is really important. Otherwise you will start to just feel the fire. You will feel heat in your body and this energizing here. And of course, if you decide for yourself, well, actually, I do want to use this to activate the fire in my body, then by all means, you can do this. Now, there's just one other point here. Some people, they can't totally get into the ability to lift up the legs in this way. So maybe in some cases, somebody has to first lift the left leg, maintain it up for a certain period of time. I don't know, maybe half a minute or something, then lower, and then continue with the right leg. Obviously with this, it's like just a completely modified pose, doesn't really give the same charge to the pelvic area, but it can be better than nothing, yeah? Now obviously, if we focus on the energy coming into the Svadhisthana chakra, then there will be a sense of feeling the energy here. And through our knowledge, excuse me, through our knowledge and understanding, by bringing the energy here, we are connecting more to the water element. We are connecting more to not just the water element in an abstract way, but the water element that governs our entire body. You imagine our body has 70% water. 70%. This is huge. So Svadhisthana chakra has an enormous effect within us. And of course, if you think about the world, like the planet that we are on, there's 70% or more. I don't know exact percentages. It's the same with the body actually. It can range from 70 plus for some people. But basically it's a much higher percentage of water, both in our bodies and on the planet. So this would really show to us that actually the water element, so therefore the energy of Svadhisthana, is very, very strong in us as a human civilization and also within the planet. So taking care to bring our awareness into the water aspect of our being is very, very important. And it's important for me to say that there are actually quite a number of asanas that can bring energy here. I'm referencing them now just for you to know. The intense forward bend of Uttanasana. Actually, when that compression takes place of pushing the pelvic area together, energy can also be accumulated here as well. So the reason I'm saying this is if you feel that you will benefit from doing a few more asanas in this way, then you can modify some other asanas here. So like I said, coming in Uttanasana and bringing the pelvis close together, and also because that opens up the area as you bend forward, like really giving a spaciousness and a nice stretch to the kidneys and the lower back, this can have an effect on the internal waters. And what to refer to when we speak about the internal waters. Actually, when we are connected to the internal waters within our body, we are definitely having more of a juiciness, we could say. Maybe you're particularly aware that your body becomes dry more easily, or you have a lot of juiciness. Today I have a little bit excess mucus actually within my body, and so this is excess water within the body. And so it's good to just check in with yourself and see if you have a predominant typology and your relationship to that. And then understanding the water element as it extends out into more the emotional and mental aspect of our being. Many people akin this energy with a more creative flow, with like the flow of emotions, with the flow of general creative ideas. And this has some truth, but I'm starting to go, okay, how much do we open to this now? The flow of emotions can actually be related from other chakras or even sub-chakras. Yeah, it's not like Svadhisthana is the master energy of the emotional body. There can be generally an effect coming from all the chakras if there is a purification taking place. But in fairness, what I have to say is it's not even necessarily the chakras that are creating the emotional body. The emotional body is, if you followed the philosophy, I think I've mentioned this in the chakras, that the the emotional energy is more akin with sub-chakras, okay, because the chakras themselves are intensely spiritual centers and the function is geared to spirituality. You can have a human being who doesn't really have a great deal of energy on the chakras, or they are even, the chakras are blocked potentially, but they will still have emotions, they will still function in day-to-day life, and they will still have physical needs, they will still function in that way. And this is because the chakras actually have a very, they have a deeper function. The chakras are spiritual centers, okay? So at the same time, it is good for us to just reflect on the general way that this information is shared in the world, like the ABC of the chakras or the ABC of Tantra, because it makes a good connection for people to connect in with, yeah? And slowly, as we develop, we can potentially go into that more deeply by understanding it from our own experience and not just something that somebody else is telling us, yeah? So, this being said, with our ABC of teaching Tantra and referring to Svadhisthana chakra, you can just encourage people to connect in with the water element. The Apas Tattva is the name. To just breathe into that center, accessing the creative energy at the level of the pelvic area. And yeah, if you like, you can bring in this flow of emotion, the more kind of imaginative energy that comes on a psychological level from this level of our being. Okay, I hope that helps you.